There's a question almost nobody asks themselves. And yet, the answer to this question could quietly change the direction of your entire life. The question is simple. How much is enough? Not how much money you can earn. Not how much success you can achieve. Not how many possessions you can collect. But how much is enough for you to finally feel satisfied, calm, and at peace with your life? It sounds like a simple question, but in the modern world, it's surprisingly difficult to answer, because from the moment we enter society, we are taught something very different. We are taught that happiness lives somewhere in the future, somewhere beyond the next promotion, the next house, the next purchase, the next milestone. We are taught that success means more money, more achievements, more recognition, more possessions. And so we spend years, sometimes decades, running toward this invisible finish line. But something strange happens along the way. Even when people achieve what they once dreamed about, the satisfaction rarely lasts. The new car becomes normal. The bigger house becomes routine. The promotion becomes another level of pressure. And soon, the mind quietly whispers again, "What's next?" This is the hidden paradox of modern life. We have more convenience than any generation before us, more technology, more access to information, more comfort, and yet many people feel more overwhelmed than ever. Busy schedules, endless notifications, a constant sense of being behind, somewhere in the pursuit of having more. We lost the ability to recognize when we already have enough. But maybe the problem isn't that we don't have enough. Maybe the problem is that nobody ever taught us how to define what enough actually means. Take a moment to think about your own life. How many things do you own that once felt important, but now sit quietly in the background of your life? How many times have you bought something, convinced that it would make you happier, only to forget about it a few weeks later? How many days pass where you feel busy all day long, but at the end of the day, something still feels strangely empty? These questions are not meant to create guilt. They are simply invitations to pause, because modern culture rarely encourages us to pause. Instead, it pushes us forward, faster and faster, toward the next goal, the next purchase, the next improvement. But philosophers throughout history have quietly suggested a different perspective. Many ancient thinkers believed that happiness does not come from constantly increasing what we have. It comes from understanding what we truly need. The Roman philosopher Seneca once observed that it is not the person who has too little who is poor, but the person who endlessly desires more. This insight appears again and again across cultures, in Stoic philosophy, in Buddhist teachings, in Taoist wisdom. Different traditions, different centuries, yet the same quiet message. Peace does not come from chasing everything. Peace comes from learning to let some things go. Imagine for a moment a different way of living, not a life of deprivation or strict limitation, but a life of clarity. A life where your choices are guided not by pressure or comparison, but by intention. You buy things that truly serve your life. You spend time on what genuinely matters to you. You say yes to what aligns with your values, and no to what does not. This is the heart of minimalism. Contrary to popular belief, minimalism is not about owning the fewest things possible. It's not about empty rooms or strict rules. Minimalism is about understanding what adds value to your life, and gently removing what does not. It's about creating space. Space in your home. Space in your schedule. Space in your mind. And something remarkable happens when you begin to create this space. Life becomes quieter. Not boring, but peaceful. You start noticing moments that once rushed past you. The warmth of morning sunlight through a window. A meaningful conversation with a friend. A walk without the constant pull of your phone. These moments were always there, but when life becomes cluttered with possessions, obligations, and endless distractions, they become harder to see. Simplicity doesn't remove joy from life. It reveals the joy that was already there. And perhaps the greatest gift of simplicity is the feeling of freedom. Freedom from comparison. Freedom from constantly needing the next upgrade. Freedom from the exhausting race to prove something to the world. When you understand what is enough for you, something powerful happens. The race slows down. Not because you have given up on ambition, but because your life is no longer driven by endless pressure. Instead of asking, "What more should I chase?" you begin asking a different question. What truly matters to me? And the answers often turn out to be surprisingly simple. Meaningful relationships. Health, creative expression, moments of quiet presence, a life that feels aligned with your values. None of these require endless accumulation. They require attention. And perhaps that is the quiet secret many people eventually discover. A rich life is not necessarily a life filled with more. It is a life filled with meaning. So, as you continue with your day, consider asking yourself a different question. Instead of wondering what more you need to add to your life, ask yourself what you might be ready to release. What expectations no longer serve you? What possessions no longer bring value? What pressures are you carrying simply because society told you that you should? Because sometimes the path to a fuller life does not involve adding more. Sometimes it begins with letting go. And in that quiet space that follows, something beautiful appears. Clarity, freedom, and the peaceful realization that perhaps, in this very moment, you already have enough.